Before I show you the ultimate way of getting a very smooth cake top, let me tell you what I've already done. I did the crumb coat, which basically acts as a seal to keep the crumbs on the cake and not on the final layer of icing. You can see I've already frosted the sides. Now I'm going to spoon my icing on top. And leave it about an inch from the edges. I discovered this when I was at a quilt shop in Heidelberg, Germany. And I thought, oh my goodness, I could do this. So I'm pretty close to the edges, a half an inch to an inch. And about a ½ inch thick on frosting here. I don't like a lot of frosting on my cakes. And I know fondant is all the rave now, but I don't like to peel off frosting either. So anyways, back in my cake decorating years, this is what I did when I decorated cakes out of my apartment or for the commissary. Okay, I believe we're done with that. Now, I'm not going to use a larger beveled spatula, and nor will I use an even larger spatula. See, it doesn't even fit across the entire surface of the cake. What I will use, though, let me clean up a bit here, is a quilting ruler. So my kids got a hold of this ruler, and there's probably some nicks along the edges, but what you want to find is a quilting yardstick or a teacher's yardstick that you're going to drag over your cake towards you, do a quick flip up, turn your cake, and then work in the opposite direction. So here we go, and we'll see if there's nicks because you'll see the lines on the frosting. So just gently glide it across. I can see that, but when you buy or use your yardstick, just make sure there's no nicks on the edges. I didn't think I'd be decorating a cake for a long time, so I let them have free reign of my stuff. And turn it over. You can see just the striations, and that's from the ruler, but if you had a perfectly edged ruler, which this was, your cake top is going to be nice and flat if this wasn't on a Lazy Susie. So let me get this off. Of course, I should have done that already. Okay. There we go. Starting that way. Okay, much better. So come across again. And you see how the icing is getting pushed to the opposite end. I have a wet napkin or paper towel that you can use to wipe the edges as you go across here. Then we'll have to turn this. And if you want to spread to the other edges, you can go in another direction, but I'm going to stick to this one here. And just press firmly down so that icing gets all the way out to the sides. Always have to clean your ruler, or even when you're using a small cake decorating spatula and do the edges. That way you don't have specks of icing making lines into your cake. Now my buttercream frosting is very airy, so you have to get your air out. There you go. I must have put this cake somewhere. No. I got icing all over the side of my bowl. Alright, so on a military base, I did a lot of military cakes, and it was full sheet cake, sometimes a double sheet cake. And this ruler really helped. But of course you can see the lines, and that's because you have the nicks in the ruler. But if it was a perfectly edged ruler, that is, if my kids didn't get a hold of it, it would work well. And this gives me a nice thin layer of icing on top. I'm going to go one more time here. I like a little bit of icing on my cakes, not a whole lot. Let's try another side. Maybe it'll work better. Okay, here we go. Last time through. Press down some. Voila! Nice and smooth. I'm going to mark off the top of my cake into panels, and I'm going to show you two ways that you can cover the tops and sides of the cake if you wanted to decorate it. Now, I wouldn't normally decorate a cake this way, but since I have a hexagon, we'll make this a little cake lesson. Okay. So I've got 6 panels there. I used to do this a lot because it made cake decorating easier, but I'm going to start with meandering lines, and basically they're just squiggles without the squiggles running over on top of each other. And I'll cover this edge once we're done with you know, some kind of design. So just start off here. This is a number 3 tip, and you can use a smaller one. I colored the icing. It's supposed to be pink. When I decorated cakes, I ordered these large bottles of gel coloring, which gave me true colors, real pink, real red, instead of, you know, these colors that don't actually come out according to the label on the jar. I like to do white on white, but it wouldn't stand out here. And I always end and start where I'm going to put a border. Oops, now I just cased myself in. So I'm going to do a little border here as well, so I'll start there. I haven't decorated a cake in a long time, other than the few that I've done for my kids. And then you move off to another side. I really like this one. So simple. Now I've switched my tip out from a number 3 to a number 2 to make this design. Now all these different designs, they came out of a Wilton cake decorating book, and there's some version of a lace, so I don't remember. Anyways, with the number 2, you just squeeze your icing and let it fall right on top of each other. Just do some little shells. It's much harder to do intricate, detailed work with icing or frosting than it is with fondant. And if you really want to get good at decorating a cake with this piped icing, you should look into Colette Peters' books. Oh my gosh. They're gorgeous, but they're time-consuming and very detailed. I worked full-time in Germany, or I had a couple of part-time jobs as well. But after that, I still had a lot of time. I didn't have any kids. I was waiting for my husband to get off of work, or off duty as we call it. And this is what I did. My reward when I was in college, right? Because I'm a pastry chef at heart. After I aced an anatomy exam, I would go to the bookstore, the used bookstore, and buy a cake decorating or a pastry making book. I get to finish a frosting. So if you didn't watch my video on my secret to filling a cake decorating bag, you need to watch it. Makes things so easy. I'm not too pleased overall with how it looks because it looks really funky with different designs. However, it did serve my purpose. I showed you 3 different ways to decorate a frosted cake, and I will let the bottom continue to dry and then I'll pipe the bottom. Okay, let me show you how I clean off the edges. Now I've done some for you. I use this triangular shaped edged spatula, and once this is completely dry, take it off on a napkin or a plate. It's best to do it when these little bits of icing are completely dry. Anyways, you just run it along and it comes out super clean and super easy. And mind you, you're going to put a border down here. One more time. And then I'm going to run a pastry brush along the base. Unfortunately, I gave up on my cloth or fibrous pastry brush, and I'm just going to use this rubber one. But it gets the bits of frosting off of the edges. This also works once you've baked a cake and you have to get all the crumbs out instead of using your hands. If I was really decorating a cake for somebody, I would match the borders, and of course I wouldn't have this design on top. But anyways, for demonstration purposes, different way, I'm using a number 32 tip and working in just one direction. Well, there you have it. The ultimate way to smooth the top of your cake, and a few tricks along the way on covering your frosted cake.